Whenever you think of groundbreaking American television that changed the game on how we view shows and had many talking at the water cooler, Norman Lear should come to everyone's mind regardless of age or generation. Back during the late 60s and early 70s, American television aired popular shows such as The Brady Bunch, Bewitched, Gilligan's Island, I Dream of Jeannie, The Partridge Family, and so forth. However, for the most part, the material is often sanitized with very little to no innuendos of adult-themed content. And this could be attributed to the restrictions imposed by the Federal Communications Commission back at the time. Most of that had changed during 1971 when television writer, producer, and director Norman Lear developed All in the Family, a sitcom featuring Carol O'Connor as the middle-aged and middle-class bigot, Archie Bunker, whose wife Edith was the heart and soul of the hit series, which drew in millions from the viewing demographic. And despite the series being labeled as a comedy, where most of us laughed at Bunker's archaic diatribes against son-in-law Michael Stivic, there were some shocking moments that featured unabashed social commentaries, from racism, sexual politics, sexual assault, a transgender homicide, infidelity, abortion, vigilantism followed by a car bombing. This series was not shy of tackling real-life issues. It was also the first to establish a connective universe, which began with spin-offs from Maude Good Times to the Jeffersons, with Good Times mostly focusing on poverty that spiraled into a self-parody where JJ Kid Dynamite became the in-joke of the series while sidelining the supporting cast. Now this led to a conflict behind the scenes as actor John Amos, who played the patriarch of the Evans family, had expressed his concerns of stereotypical portrayals of young black men, primarily JJ, played by Jimmy Walker. Amos was abruptly written off the show, which featured Florida's heartbreaking reaction.
Evans, that's me.
All right, let's go ahead on.
We regret to inform you that your husband, James Evans, was killed in an automobile. Oh, my God.
Aside from the politics that dealt with gang violence, sexually transmitted diseases, and child abuse, one of the more controversial subjects was the infamous Black Jesus episode. The series, created and written by Mike Evans, who also starred in All in the Family and the Jeffersons respectively, finally ended on a positive note. And it was one of the first, at least for me, to watch a series finale, as most TV shows that were canceled had the cast protagonist scenarios, including cliffhangers, unresolved. What I loved about the Jeffersons was how the main protagonist, George Jefferson, played by Sherman Hemsley, was a successful black businessman, which was the opposite of James Evans struggling in the projects. George wasn't shy of getting it back to racist, where in an era there were more, shall I say, creative liberties.
What's that supposed to mean?
You know damn well what it means. If you two ever really started going at one another, inside of 5 minutes, he'd be calling you...
Don't say it.
Nigga.
He said
Now, you listen to me. We have had lots of fights, and it's never happened.
Oh, and don't tell me it never crossed your mind.
no more than it ever crossed my mind to say the word hunky to Tom.
Ha! Well, how come you said it just then?
Come on, let's go.
That's the best idea you've had all day.
Sure, he could be seen as buffoonish, as with Archie Bunker, but overall it was a progressive show at the time. And this can be attributed to some of the show's black writers. And speaking of whom, after a year, All in the Family made its debut, Sanford and Son, featuring legendary comedian Red Fox, focused on unapologetic humor while avoiding the dramatic tropes from Good Times and All in the Family. The back and forth between Fred Sanford and Esther was classic television. Both Good Times and Sanford and Son had became monumental successes, with the latter courtesy of Paul Mooney's script treatments. And then there's Maud, starring B. Arthur, who for the most part was a feminist-themed sitcom, or rather sit-dram in some cases, as it handled topics such as abortion, women's rights, systemic racism, suicide, drug, and alcohol addiction. The series also co-starred Adrienne Barbeau as Carol, long before her breakout role in John Carpenter's The Fog, and as Maggie, one of the OG godmothers of science fiction heroines courtesy of Escape from New York. While some may debunk Lear's contributions as agenda shows, it was from his Jewish liberal perspective, as one who came from an oppressed group, for the most part spoke out against the injustices that plague America till this very day, by using the power of television as his bullhorn. Without Lear's contribution, there might not have been more adult-themed sitcoms or dramedies such as Soap, Roseanne, Blackish, among many that have enriched the lives of others while sparking honest conversations in a post-censored landscape. Thank you, Norman. Rest easy.